Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks, and this is episode number 24 of Comprehending Consciousness. I created this series as a hope to bridge the gap between people who might be newly waking up in the 3D matrix world, or people who are new to the spiritual journey, or maybe just waking up to their own soul's evolution, and seeing a lot of the messages and new terms and words and ideas that are kind of trickling down and into the mainstream. There is a bit of confusion, I think, or static that kind of comes with transferring these ideas down. And so I have created this segment of short videos to hopefully intrigue people who are newly waking up, to really open their eyes and see with their hearts and seek their own truth and meaning of these words and ideas. Because that, at the end of the day, is the real point or lesson or reason that we are on this journey, and that so many of us are ascending, I guess, rising, evolving, gaining more conscious awareness, gaining more a greater access to our spiritual selves, our energetic bodies, if you're new to the whole idea of ascension and growing in that way, I definitely suggest checking out my my previous episodes on soul ascension and evolution and earth's ascension as well, because those are really prevalent topics and important to understand, in seeing the big picture of things. So if you're totally new, I definitely suggest checking out those other episodes so that you can kind of familiarize yourself with the entire journey. For the here and now, episode 24, I'm going to be talking about the Akashic Record, sometimes known as Conscious Collective or the Book of Life. Some people see it as the Judgment Book, I think is the Book of Judgment, maybe is the religious term. Basically, every kind of culture and belief system, across space and time, shares this general relative belief that we have, like somebody scripting our lives, recording everything we do, every moment, every choice, decisions and intentions, and each one of us, right, in some kind of great library, holding and storing all this information. Now, very quickly at the start, I want to just clear the ground about preconceived, maybe dogmatic ideas or religious or mind control type of programs that we get instilled on us in the matrix, which will trigger fear, aggravation, irritation, or wanting to reject and not listen to, basically, that idea that there is a judgment day or a great recording of information. This, I really feel the deterrence comes from the negative, inverted idea that the watching, the recording, and the witnessing is done by some kind of micromanager above who is like the ultimate critic, looking to cut us down and say this is wrong or that is wrong, knocking points, making deductions on us. And that's not the scope of reality, and that in itself is a whole section of mind control programming that really leaches into us and blocks our heart center so that we can allow our brain to fool us, basically. Because when when you think, just take 5 seconds to think about somebody that you love. Your mother, your grandmother, your father, your grandfather, a child, a best friend, you know, your husband or wife, whatever. Somebody that you really love. And imagine seeing and watching over a video recording of their life from the day they were born till right now, say. Would you be watching that video looking at them as a baby like, oh, you didn't walk soon enough, oh, you said goo goo gaga the wrong way, like, or, you know, you threw a tantrum over not getting this, you know, sweet that you wanted, how dare you should have known better at that time, you know. We wouldn't. We would be watching it with love in our hearts, like, oh, gushing over every little, you know, feature and change of the face and smiles and laughters, and even the hurtful parts. We would be hurting with them. We would, you know, we would be watching their growth and rooting for them. You know, you could even take another metaphor as if you can't think of somebody that you love like that, which I know some people can't. And so even if you're enthralled in a movie and you're captivated by the star of that movie and you get so into it, right? And when they get hurt, you cry, or when they're struggling, you feel the struggle, right? Lessons that they learn through the movie, you're incorporating into your own self and like learning the lesson along with them, right? Or a book, say, if you like to read and you're not a movie person, people could really understand that when you get captivated with a character in a book, right? That is the way that the great observer, the creator, God, whatever you want to envision that as, watches us, every single one of us. And so it's very silly to get wrapped up in the fear and the judgments and you know, displacement or feeling not worthy or lack or whatever. All these things come up, right? That in itself, we have to remind ourselves, is a construction of a negative 3D overlay. You know, it's trying to turn us on our heads and force us to be uncomfortable. If you just let go of that and say, hey, I don't choose to believe that, you know, this is the place where we could really start to talk about, and this is the place where we talk about with soul growth and evolution, ascending to 5D, tapping into your higher self, right? That's what this is all about. Stepping out of your individual emotions and feelings, all these tied up entanglements to things, stepping back and looking at yourself like that great role of the observer, or looking at yourself like you would look at your favorite pet or your grandmother or whoever it is that you could think of that you love unconditionally like that. Look at yourself in that way. Then when we start to do that and we start to have those kind of conversations with ourselves, this is ascending. This is waking up. This is, you know, getting on your journey, harnessing a positive polarity to seek through forward, right? And so that place, when we're in that kind of place, this is where we can really get to the tour of the iceberg, the tip here of the Akashic Record, right? Because when we're locked into a place of fear where we think that we're being watched like by some ultimate critiquer who is deducting every time that we mispronounce something, or we didn't, you know, we hurt somebody else's feelings, or we didn't follow through with a promise, or whatever, we lied to ourselves, or we hurt somebody, deducting points from us because of that. It's very easy and it's very easy to dismiss the idea of Akashic Records, not even want to hear about it. It's also very easy to allow it to spark anxiety and fear within you and lead you into more of a shadowy, dark, negative place, either, you know, of self-pity or of worry, you know, and that is not what I'm trying to trigger in anybody, encourage, or cause anybody to get into. Our choice of perspective is always our own. It is always your choice. So you can easily just say, no, thank you. I don't choose to view the observer, God, the creator, whatever it is, myself, my higher self. I don't have that perspective of critiquing myself and others. You know, I have a vision that everyone is perfect just the way they are. And everybody has a score of an A+. and that all these things that we do here, it doesn't change your score, or it doesn't take down to a B to a C to an F, like, or 100 down to 50 or whatever. It's an adding of more and moreness. That's all. You know, that kind of space and understanding is part of the gear that we put on and that we understand when we want to ascend and when we want to look for more truth. And so that's what I'm hoping to encourage and offer all of us, to step into that kind of place of self-love and unconditional love, understanding, so that we don't fear this space. Because when we fear this space, the Akashic Records, like I said, it gets twisted and inverted, and it starts to be able to be used for the negative agenda's benefit of things like control, restriction, fear, anger, you know, all of the negativity. It will contort it so that it harnesses back and it triggers that kind of negative energy back. If instead we just say no and we just realize that's a whole structuring that doesn't work for us, and instead choose to hold unconditional love and acceptance, then we won't be as trapped and wrapped up into these dogmatic versions, the control structures of the Akashic Records, the Judgment Book, the Book of Life. You know, it's funny to see, because the negative agenda, the Matrix, it loves to take energetic spiritual workings, the concepts of them, like the template that they follow, and morph it and take it down into 3D and morph it into material items and make it reflect transactions in a material, solid way. And so we see judicial systems that keep records of us, right? In a negative way. Everything we've done wrong. If you've ever been, you know, arrested by the police, or if you've ever been in some kind of conflict, or you've been to prison, or you've been in part of any of those judiciary systems, you have a docket, you have a file. At your job, your boss keeps a file of all of your things. You have a review that, you know, that they're taking off all marks on you, right? Because they're using the inversion structure. And religious things are the same way, you know, in a variety of different kinds of church choices, but they all have that same kind of confessional booth sort of setup where you know, they see it in a negative way. You know, and that's a whole part of the Matrix. But if we choose to see it for what it is, and to say no thank you to that, to say that does not define me, it will not, there's so much more working here that we can have and we can see. So it's quite easy to, first and foremost, especially when you're waking up, to see the negative triggers and to hear my explanations of the Akashic Records, and to either think it's BS or either think it's a control mechanism of some kind. And as a final disclaimer here, I will say everything is as you think it is. You know, you create your reality. Your thoughts create things. And so if you so choose, then that is the way it is and will be for you. And so if you have sovereign responsibility for yourself, you would never choose uncomfortability, negativity, pain, hardship for yourself. You're going to flop it over and choose to see happiness, a way through, positivity, perseverance, strength, right? Patience, moderation, whatever it is that you need to tap it into. You will flip it over and choose to see it that way, because we are all powerful in that sense. And so the Akashic Records in themselves are a notion that everything is recorded, that all things, all aspects of things, energetic, spiritually, and physically, all are being constantly remembered, recorded, witnessed, seen, interacted with, responded to, you know. And another thing I love to look at the Akashic Records as is the ether, infinite intelligence, the great libraries. It's a beautiful, welcoming, ever-expanding place of wisdom and knowledge, if you so choose to see it that way, right? And so for those of us who do, and for those of us who are looking to seek some more understanding, I'm going to just quickly talk about the Akashic Record and how we can access it, and personally to myself, how I envision it. So the full idea of the Akashic Records is a place in space and time that is outside of the physicality of this world, and it is accessible to all of us. You just need the key to step in, and the door and the key are different for all of us. And this is why I believe throughout history it has really been pigeonholed into people who have done the work and who've understood what the key and the door is all about. Which, you know, previously in Earth's ascension and humanity's ascension took a lot more working and a lot more harnessing vibrations and specific, you know, these specific bandwidths and tones to be able to access it and understand it and get in there. However, you know, we're moving in the universe. We're moving our astral whole self. Earth in itself is on this ascension process. The age of the Aquarius is dawning, right? And so the door and the key are widening and changing, and they're more accessible to all of us. And it starts with the space of unconditional love and acceptance of the self. If you so choose, unfortunately, with I do see and understand and want to just underline here that the door in itself is widening and the key is becoming more tangible. And so those of us who are newer to waking up and who are still kind of stuck in a more negative side of the spectrum, say in our lives, in our mental space, in our energetic body, our spirituality, whatever it is, a more negative alignment we are waking up in. And so caution is really, really important before you use that key and get in there, because there is great opportunity for infringement and for trickery when we get into this. And if you're not wearing your spiritual armor, so to speak, in your own way, whatever you see that as and do that as, you run the risk of getting bad knowledge, receiving inverted things, entangling yourself with energetic entanglements, getting hooks and anchors and all these things wrapped up into yourself when you go to try to do this kind of seeking and get into the Akashic Records. It is my belief, as well as many others, that there are witnesses and watchers of many different varieties and flavorings across the spectrum of polarity here, because we do live in duality. And so it's unfair for me to say and to put up, I don't want to be a just love and light kind of glittery, just have positive thoughts and you won't be touched by any negativity. You know, that really isn't the case. You really, really have to have armor, protection. You have to have your compass, you know, right? Listen, you have to have this straight communication from your heart center, your throat center, and your entire energy centers, all inside of your head and your crown chakra. All of these things have to be strong in order to really know what you're doing and to really be able to meet the obstacles correctly. So if you are newly waking up, if you're new to shadow work, if you are new to this entire thing, then I highly suggest either working with a great mentor who is familiar with the Akashic Records, astral projection, hypnosis, all these different kinds of movements of different bodies to speak with them, to work with them before you jump into things like this, or to do your own internal seeking beforehand. Now, with that said, if you are able to contact or you're looking to do that kind of work and get into the Akashic Records, well, they are infinite and ever-changing and beautiful and unique. And it's interesting when you start to look at it, because many of us will have similar types of experiences, encounter similar visuals, encounter similar energetic bodies and messages, and those can often pop up like literally a library with lots and lots of books everywhere. It can be a place with file cabinets. It can be a great judgment hall with angels and saints in there that you can speak with and request information from. It can also be like a behind-the-scenes staging area. Some people see it as. Now, it's the appearance of it is not important. The working and what happens is what's important. And so when we hear people talk about downloads, talk about enlightenment or epiphanies, this comes from contact with the conscious collective or the Akashic Records, or however you would like to see that as. When we pull down information from this space, it takes a different form within us than information on a physical level when we're taking in information through reading a book or listening to someone speaking or reading something on the computer or whatever it is. This kind of information is a direct transfer, and a lot of times it's a lot of information. It's a mass that you can't really speak out even. It takes a lot of practice and progress to sort through and to make sense of the sort of messages that you receive when you're in contact with the collective or with the Akashic. The more workings that you do, and depending on what your own journey has been and your own skills, affinities, the things that you're drawn to and understanding, and what purpose you're here for, you might be gifted information in different ways. You might be gifted an entire book, say, of whatever. Say you're in a career path and you're looking for a new sort of way to do your job in. You might be handed an entire book, like an instruction manual of like new caregiving ways to help people, ways to help addicts, or ways to help this disabled person or this disease you've been looking at. Or, maybe it's an entire book that you're going to write, and bam, you're handed that whole plot line in seconds. Things like that can happen. It can be if you're going into the Akashic Records to seek understanding in a relationship or working with someone. You might get pictures of life choices, life experiences of somebody else. You might be downloaded with empathetic feelings of scenarios from this person, so that you can see why they are the way they are, or you could see things from their perspective more easily. We can go into the Akashic for specific reasons, and that can be very helpful. A lot of times the mainstream sees it as most people will be like doing past life regression, wanting to go into different lifetimes or find out more about themselves specifically, and go into it with a narrow seeking like that. And that in itself is an entire avenue of working, which I'm not going to speak directly on, because I could talk for hours and I like to keep these videos short. So, but just know that is available, and that kind of personal seeking can be very useful. But please, if that is your intentional space, go at it with a mentor, go at it with QHHT person, or somebody who has a shamanic background of some kind, because like I said, when we're not fully encased in armor, and we don't have all of our light very bright, and we have distortions taking place within us, it can be very dangerous to try to do these things on your own, and it can actually just lead to more problems and disease, and I just would not recommend that. However, if you have somebody that you know personally or that you've worked with before, and that's a place that you want to look at, you can definitely go for that. Another thing that's definitely useful in the Akashic Records is things that tap into remote viewing. And I think that I will probably tackle remote viewing separately in another Comprehending Consciousness episode, maybe with astral projection. And I might do them separately because they are technically different things. But for people who are newly waking up, these different interactions with different bodies in different dimensions, and all of these, the multi-layeredness of it, it can be very overwhelming, and you just can't understand it. So I don't like to get too into the real nuances of those things, just because I don't want to deter people or make things more confusing. So, I've talked over 20 minutes here, so I'm going to wrap up. Be sure to tune in next time. Like I said, I'm going to take it into talking about remote viewing or astral projection and what those things are useful for. But the Akashic Records in itself is what we're accessing when we're doing these things, because it is ever present, always evolving, and it's just like the placeholder, basically, for this journey and experience here. Now, I'm just thinking in my head, did I miss points that I really wanted to touch on? I hope I didn't. But my main point in hoping to clear the ground here is to break away from this really managerial negative overlay that we have when we think of things like the Akashic Records, because I think many of us get immediately wrapped up in judgments and worries, and that really is not conducive to positive solution seekings or finding your truth or finding your way. That really is just tail chasing, liar loops, and distortions to keep you feeding that negative system, the inversions. So, as much as you can, try to see things with an unbiased eye, and know that the capacity to record and to watch and witness all that's happening here is much greater than the individual. And when we get wrapped up and worried about our own little play that we're a part of, and how we might be seen in it, we are detracting from the beauty of our own experience. And at the end of the day, we are just one fractal, one little piece, a mosaic tile in stained glass, right? And the Akashic Records in itself, you could pull back and say, okay, it's the stained glass picture of the whole. But also within that, it is the entire recording of how the whole thing was built. And also, it's the drawing board before it was built. It's the instructions of how to do it. It's all of the welding work to make the frames of each of our beautiful tiles that we are and we sit within, It's much bigger, is my point. And it has a beautiful purpose to it. And so, if we could just shake the shame and the guilt and not really worry about that, then then we can open ourselves up to better understandings, right? And to really doing great work for ourselves and tapping into the Akashic, right? When we need to, or being able to pull in information when we need to, right? It's it's a space of clairvoyancy, I guess, that becomes available to all of us when we choose and when we practice. So yeah, I'm going to close it out here. I talked for a half an hour. This has gone over time. But it's a giant topic, and it comes with a lot of foundational workings. And so I hope I relayed that. I hope that I didn't confuse people, and also that I am inspiring people to do honest seeking. So thank you so much for listening to me in this extended Comprehending Consciousness, episode 24 on the Akashic Records, also known as the Conscious Collective. I hope that you will tune in next time. And in the meantime, if you are looking for more, you could always find me over on Telegram at t.me/amariespeaks or amariespeaks.com. So I will catch you next time.